Hi, Lake Worth Beach is considering building a parking garage in the downtown area. This is happening now because a developer is negotiating with Lake Worth Beach to bring WMOTA here. They'd be building 100 units of market rate apartments on public land that will be donated to them by the city and the CRA, and as well as millions of dollars in other incentives to make that project work. But they do not have the space on site to build enough parking to fulfill their parking requirements. So they are bringing forward a proposal to the city that we build and maintain a public parking garage. They will contribute about 12% of the base cost and help with financing. That will get them to be able to meet their parking requirements. But we, the city, right now, we don't know if we need it. We don't know if people will use it. And we don't know if there will be a return on our investment. These are the 9 steps or best practices that I found that the city should be taking before deciding to commit $7.5 million in public funds to building this parking garage. But these 9 steps have been neglected because the city is not the one driving this conversation. It is the developer's timeline that is. So the first recommendation before committing to spending money on building a parking garage is to actually do a parking needs assessment that would even help you determine if one is needed. So the developer's proposal does reference an outdated study that has not been visited in the public with the elected body since 2018. There is mention of a 2024 update. Again, that has not been part of any of the backup or provided to the public in any way. I did ask for this parking study about 2 weeks ago, and I have yet to receive the updated copy from the city. So in the last 4 years, including my 3 years that I was in office, we did not have any public conversations about this burning need to build a parking garage in the heart of our historic downtown. What we have had, though, are conversations every single year while we are reviewing the budget. And we realize the burden that the city has been left with due to another development agreement with the developers of the Bohemian. They needed a parking garage as part of their project, and the city rushed to commit to leasing, I think, spaces for about 30 years, a down payment and a 30-year lease. So watch this commission just earlier this summer try to make sense of this burden that they've been left with.
Number 1 and 2, the red
Yes.
1 and 2. $2,462,675.
Yes.
It says includes Bohemian fee, $2,458,988 or 958. Is that? I know it's the garage. I mean, I get that.
Yeah.
A more specific question than that. Are we paying that every? That's what the city to pay to the Bohemian to build the Bohemian, and it included the things,
Yeah,
the parking
that was
garage.
The incentive program that we gave for the Bohemian was 2.4. We already spent that money.
Okay, so that's gone.
That's gone
So
already.
are we not sending them $70,000 a
Yes,
year?
we are, well, I don't want to say unfortunately, but we have,
So all right, wait.
Use the parking garage, people.
So we've already, just so that I understand,
we are
we've
obligated.
already given them 2.5 million.
Correct, yes.
And we're giving them $70,000 a year,
I would approximately
80?
90,000.
a year. And what is that
So
for?
it's 70,000 for 120 parking spaces at least that we're leasing.
All right, and,
So there's 70, and then there's common area, what is it called? Common area maintenance
right,
that we get charged about 15 to 20, so I had up to like 90,000.
how long is that obligation to give the Bohemian $90,000 a year for?
Perpetuity?
I don't know. Forever?
Yeah,
See, this was done prior to, Yannick, prior to.
Us, all of us.
It is a great deal for someone else, not so much for us.
Jeez.
So we are actively trying to figure out how we can generate more revenue.
Maybe we
there
need to
and
hire
drive
one of those
more.
sign twirler people that show people to park that way.
So I'm going to jump to number 3, which is evaluating alternatives to building a parking garage first, which makes sense because parking garages can be expensive to build and to also maintain. And this goes right along with the advice that we got from our consultant with the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, who, as part of the downtown master plan, which happened after that initial parking study had recommended to us to look into every available option before committing to building a parking garage in the heart of your downtown. We haven't done that yet. So there are things like valet that we have not tried, demand parking, fee schedules that we have not tried. Commissioner Diaz did bring to the commission, was very excited to support bringing the circuit. So we have now a little electric vehicle that can pick people up at our unused parking garage sitting over there by the Bohemian development and bring them right to the heart of the downtown area. So that has just started being piloted this year. We have yet to see the results of that. So we have not exhausted our other options before jumping into this commitment to build another parking garage. I think if you were being asked to invest significant amount of money into any kind of project, you would want to see a cost benefit analysis, or later we'll talk about the financial feasibility of that project. So we are the investors as the taxpayers into this project. The public deserves to see this cost benefit analysis. The commission should be using this type of information before making these kinds of decisions. One does not exist right now. So what we do know is that there's essentially a $5 million down payment and then a $3.5 million that will be paid back over the next 5 years. So we are going to be using public funds combined from the city and CRA for a $4 million initial investment, and then obligated for the next 5 years to pay back that $3.5 million. What's missing here are any of the hidden costs, like what happens if this parking garage goes over $8.5 million. We also have not been provided an estimate that shows what does $8.5 million get you? Do we have contingency built in? Do we have a buffer for inflation or unexpected cost as we encounter building this structure? We are also missing any cost associated with operation or maintenance. What happens down the road when an elevator breaks and we have to go in and repair or replace that? Are we going to be saving money so that it's available? Are we going to generate the revenue to cover those costs? So we are missing a lot of the financial analysis that should be considered before making this important decision. So let's assume that you've determined that there's a need, you've done your proper cost benefit analysis, and you've exhausted all alternatives, and you are ready to commit to this parking structure. Then the next thing that you want to look at is the design. And I'm not talking about the nitty-gritty details, just for this purposes, the overall question of, will this parking structure blend in with the city's architecture and enhance the surrounding environment rather than just creating a concrete structure? So I do not believe that that is built into the $8.5 million price tag. It says any additional enhancements would be extra. So we should be considering this footprint, this location, where this is. Is it appropriate to be building a precast concrete parking garage in the middle of our quaint little historic downtown that's been getting a lot of love on Facebook lately, including from some elected officials who've been happy to share this article highlighting what makes our town special and unique. So we touched on financial feasibility a little bit earlier when we talked about the cost benefit analysis, but this really is asking for a true financial model that shows the forecasting out of the cost and the revenue over time, just to determine if the garage is financially sustainable over time. Is it going to break even? Is it going to make money? Is it going to continue to be an obligation? Then aside from that is identifying your funding sources. So the city would have to be looking to find $2.5 million. And the only place I can see them going to find that money is kind of the remainder of the penny sales tax, which is set to sunset and expire. So once it's gone, it's gone. This would be the last likely project that gets funded from that initiative. And then the debt service that we have to be responsible for over the next 5 years, as well as the hidden maintenance and operational costs that we haven't seen. So, your budget conversations get real short and real fast when you show up and you've already committed all these future dollars. There's not a lot left over. So you don't get to have those conversations about what you want to do, what you promised the voters you were going to do to help enhance services for the residents. So one of the final ways that you can try to reduce some of that risk to make sure that your parking garage is actually going to be an investment and not an obligation and drain on your budget is to go ahead and pilot some of these solutions. So the big thing with this parking garage is in order for it to even maintain itself, it has to charge for parking. But we don't know if people are willing to pay for parking yet in downtown Lake Worth Beach. But there's a very simple way to find out. We have surface parking and we have street parking. So we could pilot a program where we do charge parking to see if our assumptions are met. And then that can help kind of lower the risks before you decide to make this investment. So the big takeaway for me here is that there are these best practices that are meant to protect taxpayer and public funds before investing into projects to make sure that we're actually going to see a return on our investment. And I have not seen any of that done with this current commission and at the staff level. So if you're as concerned as I am about taking on this big obligation with very little financial analysis to accompany it, please feel free to call your commissioners, write them an email, just ask them what information they have that's making them feel so comfortable with taking on this commitment.